Hello, video on demand people. The best people. The only people that matter, I think we can all agree. What kind of person just shows up? What kind of person is just waiting for a live stream to happen? Weirdos. That's who. No, not us. We're normal. We watch videos, in the fullness of time. Like normal people. Hello, hey everybody. No one's here yet because ain't nobody knows I'm going live. Actually, that's not true. I told the modulators that I was going to be live. Excuse me. There is a person whose name I do not know how to pronounce. Is it Voyin? I don't know how to. There's a diacritical over the C in your name, which is always exciting. I should make sure. Hello, hi, hello, Jack. Hello, Tekodal. Hello, Connor. Welcome. Hi. We're gonna get back to where we were before. Get back to where you once be. Hello, Europe, isn't it? It's late in Europe, isn't it? Ditto, Germany. Marcel's glad to see you here. A longtime friend of the channel. Soleil. Names I recognize from my normal live streams. I also hope I have a blast, Caleb Baker. We're going to go right back to where we were, pick up the adventure we were working on. Let me let the mods know that the thing I threatened to do, I am actually doing. Now, it's not unusual when I stream on YouTube for a lot of people to show up, and I consider a lot of people anything over like 700. So that might happen again today. We all have to pretend. Let's all agree that we're all going to pretend to be fewer people. You don't have to be fewer people. Let's just all pretend to be fewer people. 22. What is that? That's 2:30 in the morning. 2:30? No, it's 11:30 at night in Europe. Hello, Digital Janus. What's up? Again, we're gonna hang out. We're gonna hang out for probably like 10 minutes, I would say, and just chill and vibe and whatever you folks want to talk about, we can talk about within reason. And then because I want to give people time to show up. Normally I would have like my modular synth running and should there be a timer ticking down saying Matt will be around it, but my modular synth isn't here. I'm going to repair that fact. Hello. Hi. Yes, the adventure is going to continue. What's up, Chile? Many of your country folk are fans of, including various people whose names I recognize. How did the Beast Heart go? Pretty good. Last movie I watched. Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question. Not all that jazz. Even though I got it on Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, and I really want to watch it for some reason. Can you make the? Yeah, I absolutely can. But uns. I heard a techno song once. The Beast Heart went pretty well, Jonathan Herzog. Paul Hughes, who has worked with us before, did the first draft of it, and we played that, and I played the Beast Heart, and it was cool. It worked. But then afterwards, I thought about it and I was like, is there a cooler version of this that might actually, so I think we may have overcorrected in one direction in worrying about running two characters and focusing on the action economy and trying to get back to something that's a little bit more flavorful. I would say, yeah, I don't want to get too into the reads here because it's sort of not the done thing for me to talk to you folks about. So I don't know what James has communicated to Paul, but I feel like where we ended up was something that was totally workable, but I felt like me and my pet were basically one thing, right? And I would personally like to see more differentiation there, but we have a lot that's easy to do, and we've done it before. So, Sean Valentine, I hope you get to finish that sentence. Yeah, the Necromancer was fun to run. I'm sure I have no idea, Fusty Dog. That's a question. Why are you asking me questions about other people? I don't know. Go ask them. Yeah, the Summoner test went really well. We'll probably stream on Twitch. We'll probably stream the next Beast Heart test, depending on when that happens. I'm lucky that the people I work with, when we're doing something like we're testing a brand new class for our game, like the Summoner. And I did this a couple times during normal Draw Steel development. I said, do you guys mind if I stream this? And they were all like, no, that's fine. And I guess the most kind of pushback I got was like people just saying, is this ready for people? And I'm like, but the point is I want to show people how a game gets made. And in that context, it's so far, everybody's been like, Yeah, there's been no downside. So we streamed the test of the Summoner. It might still be on Twitch for all I know. And it was really cool. It was really fun. I don't think those things are very watchable. I don't think there are a lot of, I actually don't think watching people play games is very entertaining. But it can be it can be really useful. You watch people play and you get all of a sudden, especially if they know what they're doing, things that might have been confusing to you suddenly become really clear. And also just, it starts to seem like you could do it. You watch people do it and you go, oh, I could do that. So yeah, I was really impressed with Willie's design. It's funnily enough, it wasn't until I was reading what Willie wrote, because we did a kind of a 1-2 punch post for the Patreon. So patrons just got a post from Willie and I about the development of the Summoner. And keep in mind that the Summoner is still 1 or 2 iterations away, I think, from going to our testers, our contract testers. But so there's still, we only have one level of one subclass. That's all we have for the Summoner, but that's the core mechanic. So we're testing the core mechanic of summoning minions, controlling them in battle, sacrificing them to power up spells, and that game loop really works. I didn't really appreciate the brilliance of Willie's design until I was reading his 80% of the blog post on Patreon, and I realized, oh, yeah, no, I knew this was true. Either I can use one of my special attacks, in which case I make like casting a spell as a necromancer, basically. Either I'm going to cast a cool necromancer spell on my turn, or my minions are going to execute some cool maneuver. I don't mean literally a maneuver. I mean a special attack or something like that. And either way, you're only making one power roll. So if I'm going to use my essence that I've generated from dead minions, the first thing that happens on the Summoner's turn, the first thing that happens at the beginning of the battle, it's not even the beginning of your turn. It's the beginning of the battle, which I thought was brilliant. Zombies show up. Awesome. There's zombies on the field and I can do something with them. And if they die, they turn into essence I can use to cast my spells. And so if I decide to cast one of my spells, I make a power roll, I do the spell, and my minions all do their free strike. Now, normally for the players, a free strike, which isn't like an attack of opportunity, a free strike is a power roll, right? And it's modified by your kit and all that stuff. But if you're a director and you're running minions and stuff like that, free strikes, there's no roll. The monsters just do damage, flat damage. So it's the same mechanic, but on the player side, it's a roll, normal power roll. On the DM side, you don't roll. You have enough stuff to do managing a lot of dudes. A free strike is just flat damage. So what Willie did was Willie grabbed that design from the director and gave it to the Summoner. So if I cast one of my spells, my minions still do something. They just use their free strike, which is no roll. And it's so good. But if I use one of my cool minion abilities, my minions are the ones making a power roll, right? And they get to do something cool. So the point I'm making is, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing something cool or my minions are doing something cool. There's only one power roll per turn. And that, I think, was the key. It's the real linchpin that made the Summoner, even though you've got a lot of zombies on the field, skeletons, there are going to be other things you can summon, demons, elemental sprites, pixies, stuff like that, you're still only making one power roll. And that was super, super good. Anyway, I couldn't have nailed the pronunciation. I pronounced it 2 different ways. There was somebody else. Are you the same person? Slayer A223. I shouldn't Slayer A be 440. Stole my adventure campaign idea and ran it. Now our one shot accidentally turned into a whole campaign. I don't know. I'm gonna guess that you're talking about the Dalian Tomb as opposed to this thing we're working on right now. Hey folks, you want to know something cool? I was going to use a profanity, but in an affectionate way. There's some person online who has taken this unfinished adventure and is already running it in Draw Steel, and I'm like, wow, I should just watch this person and see what happens, and then just take that and be like, okay, well, now I know what happens in this. I now know what happens next in this adventure. Excuse me, pardon me. Digital Janus, music nerd. Chaster Meef, what a great name. I can tell that streamlining the amount of rolls you need to make in a turn is a big focus for us. Yeah, I wouldn't hang the focus, and it has been from the very, very beginning of the game, and it still is one of our guiding stars, is flow state. and what I call what do you throw over? Are you throwing information over to the other side on the damn screen, and can you forget about it, or are you playing fucking ping pong? And I'm so sick and tired of playing ping pong in D20 Fantasy, where it's like the director says, "Here's what is happening. I need a piece of data from you, player," and the player goes, "Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, here's this piece of data. Oh, okay. Now that I have this piece of data, now I know I hit. So here's how much damage I did. Well, wait, hang on. Last time you rolled that, you missed. How come you hit this time? Well, wait, because this guy, oh, I hate that. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. It makes me so mad. And I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. So what we like is instances where the director or the players, they just announce stuff. And then it's up to you, like, for instance, potency. If your agility is less than 2, this happens to you, right? Ta-da! And then I just go about my business. And it's up to you guys to figure out how that affects you on a case-by-case basis. So that's what we try to focus on is it's okay to take a piece of information, like, for instance, everybody with agility less than 2 is affected by this thing, and just toss it over the DM screen and call it good and move on. It's not okay to sit there on your turn going back and forth with a player, extracting data, applying that data to a function, putting the result of the function back over the screen, because at every one of those steps, you're sitting there waiting for somebody to look something up. People are talking, they give you the wrong information, you asked the wrong question, they didn't understand I thought that was this goblin attacking me, not that goblin. It makes me want to headbutt my mom. So anyway, pardon me. Yes, roundtable material, we're definitely going to do that. Good question. Good idea. But we're going to do that. Rise Hero Rise, I think one of the best advocates for our game, for Draw Steel. They run their game live. It's very like Dusk, where there's a camera on the director. The other players, you just see their art, the art for their characters light up when they talk, and they seem to be having a lot of fun. And they make these great shorts, and everybody should watch them. They're super cool. Patty B vids, yes, we're definitely gonna because here's the thing. I believe the last time I worked on this was like the 6th of January, which is an auspicious day, so that's like literally over a month and a week ago, 5 weeks ago. So we're all going to get caught up on what's going on with this adventure we're in the middle of. And by the way, I know we've already streamed twice. I don't know how long the stream's going to go. I would say about 90 minutes is reasonable. I don't even think we're halfway done. We have so much work to do to turn this into an adventure that I would feel comfortable running. And there's still a big gap between something I would feel comfortable running and a product you can produce, you can sell. That would require layout and art and testing and a lot more work on the actual. I'm probably just going to run from an outline, taking an outline and turning it into a finished product so other people besides me can run it. I'm not going to bother with that. We got plenty of ideas for adventures for Draw Steel. This one is not on the list. Fail for sale. That video about old hats arguing about what D&D is. Yeah. That was a revelation, a major revelation. I love the fact that I don't know what it was going to be like. I was too busy being whatever age I was, but I love the fact that I'm in my 50s and I'm still learning unbelievable revelatory things about my hobby of choice. And I had you can see it if you watch my videos. I definitely I believed this received wisdom, which had no real basis in reality, that this is what it was like playing D&D in the 70s. And the funny thing is I didn't start much longer than I was in 85, I think is when I started, which is not that far from the 70s. And so it's interesting projecting backward. I was like, oh, it's funny. I should have known because we were already in the 80s, my friends and I, as teenagers. We started off as very much like hack and slash players, but by the time we were like 17, our games were really complicated. They were politically complicated. They were psychologically complicated. And we had discovered the power of what you could do with this gameplay narrative intersection. Right. And we were doing all of this, all the same stuff you see the theater nerds do. I was a theater nerd. No one else in my group was a theater nerd, but, I was in my group. And so we were doing a lot of we were playing in character and we had really complicated, we had subplots. Our characters all had subplots that we hoped would resolve. And the director was running really complicated NPCs that had an internal reality to them. And so it's funny that like, I knew that in the 80s, there was not one correct style of play. There were lots. It's funny that I imagined that things had changed a lot in like only 5 or 7 years. As soon as there was D&D, people were playing it every way you can imagine. As soon as it existed, people were playing it the way they play on Critical Role, the way I play, the way the hack and slash players play. It was all happening at once. And that's one of the reasons there is no institutional knowledge. And it was, I don't know if I've ever said that. I'm sure I've talked about this in a video. This is a video among other things, but it was a major break that there was like this moment while I was working on Draw Steel. I was playing a game called Stellaris, and I'm reading The Elusive Shift, and all of these things factor together. And I realized that, like, you know, I've always known that the rules for a role-playing game they're different than the rules for every other kind of game, in that the rules for an RPG are very much like a game engine that you have to then take and turn into a game. It doesn't become a game until you're running it at the table. Then and there's just no way, especially a sufficiently complex game, especially AD&D, which I did not understand the context for AD&D. I didn't know why Gary wrote what he wrote. And so I've always known that no one ever uses all the rules. That's crazy, right? You can't keep all the rules in your head, especially a game as complicated as D&D. Forget about it. And now I kind of give myself permission. I give myself permission to not know every single rule in the rule book. That's fine. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad designer. That doesn't, it's normal. It's normal. The fact that like, we don't know, we've always known that when Draw Steel came out, and you can play it now, but it hasn't been released yet, that people were going to use it in ways we hadn't thought of. That's not true of something like Gloomhaven. That's not true of something like, you know, Codenames or whatever. You know, people are going to play Draw Steel in ways that we hadn't thought of. They're going to use it and push it in interesting directions. And we want to watch. We want to see that happen because we want to support it. Whatever people end up using it for, we're excited. Anyway, the lesson from Stellaris for me was almost every game I really love, I consider deeply flawed. And that moment, because Stellaris isn't on that list. Stellaris is a game I played. I thought I might like it. I invested 60, 80 hours into it. And I was like, you know what? There is a lot to like here, but I don't think this game is for me. But it was in the process of streaming Stellaris and bitching about it and then watching chat draw the wrong conclusion. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying, just because I'm bitching about this doesn't mean I don't like it. And then I started thinking back to many of my favorite games or games that I played a lot before I moved on, like Talisman. You know, my friends and I played Talisman for like at least an entire summer. That's all we played. We had a spreadsheet of all the different characters we played and who won and who lost and all that stuff because we were trying to data mine, you know, the balance of the game. And it's a bad game, folks. It's a bad game, but I loved it. Same thing with like Settlers of Catan. I think I mentioned this in a video, that first edition of Settlers of Catan. If you know how that game works and you look at the starting setup, you know, whenever all the players are done placing their little settlements and roads, you can go, oh, Dave's going to win. And new players will be like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, well, look, he's got one thing on clay and wheat and he's got the other one on rock and sheep. And none of you guys do. So he has an early game settlement, he has a late game settlement, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't blow his settlements up, right? But we didn't know that. We didn't realize that. And this gets into, I think, the next video you guys are going to get from me, which is in the next 2 weeks. The fact that there's a lot of people online right now. I see a lot of people online complaining about complaining about 5th edition. And then I see a lot of other people complaining about them complaining and saying, just play another game. And you would just play any other game. Stop complaining, just play another game. And you would think I would be on their side. You would think, because I've got a whole new game. Of course I want people to try new games. Of course I want, but when I see these people saying to these people, stop complaining and just try any other game, I'm not on these people's side. I'm on their side. I'm like, look, you don't know. Maybe the reason they're bitching so much is because they love it, because they love the game. Don't we bitch and complain a lot about the things that we love? Isn't that kind of part and parcel of loving things, is becoming intimately familiar with its flaw or their flaws? Aren't all the people that we love really messy? Yeah, 100%. So yeah, anyway, that's a long blah blah just to impart some lessons I feel like I've learned. And that was part of me working on Draw Steel. Part of me was like, what if I don't like this game? Wouldn't that be weird? Well, there's no danger of that happening. I love Draw Steel, but I reconciled There wasn't anything in the game that caused me to think this, by the way. And I haven't encountered this yet. I just assume it will happen. There will be some point where I'm running draw steal and I'm doing it a lot and certain things start to annoy me, right? Well, because they didn't annoy me before because I hadn't played it that much. Well, guess what? Everything I love has things like that in it. That's okay. Relax. So it's sort of giving myself permission not to try to make something perfect. Excuse me. Okay, where are we? Where are we? What time is it? Where's the thing that tells me how long we've been streaming? We've been streaming for 20 minutes. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. As many people, I'm sure more people will show up, but this is a goodly amount of time. Let us go and check out the adventure. So if I click this button, we should rights. Hello, hi. Gabe Tevis, so far, nothing. I mean, I thought I just said, maybe I misspoke. Like, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before that happens with this game, for various reasons. But you gotta play something a lot. You have to, for an RPG, for me, in my experience, you have to play an RPG for years before you start to get really annoyed by certain things. So, it should be obvious that I can't answer that question for Draw Steel right now, because I haven't been playing it for a couple of years yet. All right, so let's move this over here. And I'm just trying to make it easier for folks to read this on mobile. Go in mobile. Actually, what I can do is that. Why does it do that? That's so annoying. That is really, really annoying. Why is the width? There we go. There we go. Okay, here we go. And now I can do this. Hello, hi. I can even do this because y'all don't need to see that. Whoa. There we go. Okay, nerd, and then how about some of that? There we go. And now I can do that. It's a little blurry. It's a little blurry, but now you guys can. Now the problem is, hang on, stand by. I did some of this work before I streamed. The making sure that y'all don't. Whoa, that's too big. Here we go. How about that? How about this? Stand by. I want to make it so that what I'm looking at is the same size as what you guys are looking at. And that is a little tricky. All right, so this is not a good idea. Hang on a minute. Reset. This is going to make it so that none of us can see enough of this. Reset transform. There we go. That's interesting. I thought I was so clever. Jesus Christ. Hang on a minute. Delete that. Every time I click on this, I get a different source. That is still too hello. Hi. Anyway. That's gonna have to do. That's gonna have to be good enough. You're right, I didn't nerd. That's the problem. So I realize those of you on mobile may not be able to see all of this, but let us refresh our memory of what the hell's going on in this Sword Synesis. You're welcome. Any advice I have, anything I've done, anything I've learned that is useful to other people, it makes me happy that they get value from it. So this is an adventure for Draw Steel. There's nothing in it yet. Griffin Muffin. Nope, I have no idea what the name of the song is. Sorry. This is just a synthwave playlist. So it's like a 2-hour video that's got a whole bunch of songs in it. They may be credited. I don't know. So this is an adventure for Draw Steel, our new fantasy role-playing game. But so far, there isn't anything about it that is unique to our game or indeed even our setting. It may become more unique as we go. And what we're trying to get done at this point is just an outline. Not even an outline that I would write so that I could assign this to a freelancer and turn it into a real product. Would be a lot longer than this and have a lot more detail in it, because I don't like giving freelancers. I don't like paying a freelancer to work on something without giving them really clear goals. So they know this is what he asked for. It can be, I have empathy for folks, and I hate the idea of a freelancer that goes, well, he was kind of vague, so maybe this is what he wants. No. I want to make sure they know exactly how to do a good job on this assignment. And that means being really specific. So like a 30,000 word adventure, I might write a 10,000 word outline, right? But we're not going to get that specific. We don't have to get that specific here, but we just need to have a beginning, middle, and an end and kind of understand the flow of it. And then at some point, I may do this offline. I may do it online. We'll see. I'll go through it. I'm going to have to figure out, what is this town? Like, I'll probably make a map of the local area. So this is probably going to be somewhere in Corwell, I would guess, a place we haven't been to yet since we started MCDM. Maybe somewhere in Eastern Vaslauria. I don't know. It's not a big deal right now. But I'm going to come up with a somewhat generic, fun little local area with a town. I want to have a map of the town, know who the people in the town are. I don't think we're going to get into that much detail because I don't think the players are going to spend much time there. This is just kind of a demo adventure. But if it turns into something real, if the players have a good time, which I always hope, but I do not assume, if the players have a good time, then we want to be able to continue playing. And so having some amount of detail regarding the local area and the town is useful. We're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that anytime soon. We also need to build out all the encounters, saying, oh, it would be cool if they fought some shadow elves here. Well, fantastic, but how many and which type and what battle mat and all that stuff. And that's something I might do offline. I don't know, but you folks will get to see if I run this, and if I do a good job, I'd like to run it for lots of people, then you folks will get to see the finished product. So let's take a look at where we ended up. The adventure right now, everything in this is temp. Everything in this could be replaced at a moment's notice. The expedition, it's not a bad name. Who are the expeditioneers? Is it the heroes? Are they tracking an expedition? Why is that the title? I don't know. We'll see. Specialists wanted poster. For some reason, I like the idea of hero. Normally, I think of specialists as being too jargony, and not really what the people in the world in a 12th century milieu would have chosen. But maybe they would. Maybe they would. I like it better for this than like rat catchers. You know, the idea that like, well, all the usual suspects have struck out. I sent my knights and they failed, and I've talked to the local ranger or whoever and they couldn't figure it out. So now we need a specialist. So that name might stick. The local baron, who's that? We don't know yet. Is hiring specialists, meaning adventurers, to find some missing people. Sounds good to me. Indicate a high level of threat. How do we do that? Via the number or nature of people who have gone missing trying to figure this out. I have a hiccup, so I apologize. Something about when I stream, I think it's because I swallow air or something, gives me hiccups. And some promise of a payout, but Draw Steel is not a game where we assume that you are motivated by greed and that you just want more money just for the sake of more money. We don't assume that. So there has to be some kind of bonus, something like a title, I think would be great. And I think I would probably put it in front of the players. You know, I don't know what that title is going to be yet. I need to know more about the Baron, the town, the mission. But if I could tell the players, this gets down to the video about toward better rewards, right? If I could tell the players, look, if you finish this, if you find these people, you're going to get this, you will qualify for this title. And if you look in the rules for Draw Steel, which you can do if you're a backer or a patron, you'll see that titles are super cool. They're like if you kill a dragon, you qualify for the Dragon Slayer title. But there's like 4 or 5 things inside the Dragon Slayer title, and you only get to pick one of them, right? So every time you kill a dragon, you get to pick a different one of these. Or alternatively, if everybody in the party qualifies for it, then you could all have that Dragon Slayer title and all have different abilities as a result. And I think that's super cool. So we need something like that. And if the players get to see, oh, damn, I get this. If we do this, I get this cool ability. Now they're motivated, and that's not bad. I like that. So who has gone missing is what this says, the missing, but then this doesn't say who the Baron's not missing. So what's this title? What's this header doing here? I don't know. I don't remember what I was thinking when I wrote this. Baron of the local barony. There's a distant village to the west. Normally there's trade between, and I think I called it Broad. Broad is a placeholder name. I've used the word Broad before. So there's already a town named Broad, but we'll get there. We'll come up with a better name, probably offline. Me sitting and just thinking does not make great streaming content. Normally there's trade and the Baron sends. By the way, me putting an idea down for 5 or 6 weeks and then picking it up. I mean, there's stuff in Draw Steel that is in there because I picked this up 20 years ago and then put it down. And then to finish this game, they're like, hey, we need to know how saints, who are these saints? I'm like, okay, let me go open those documents up that I started working on in 1998 or whatever. So me picking this up weeks after we started is no big deal. You get used to that, and especially in game development, you have a lot of projects, a lot of different irons in the fire, so to speak. Normally there's trade. Yep, Baron sends supplies. Yep, but it's been weeks. Yep, something's going on. There's a missing town. The missing town. How about that? So Baron, local barony. That I'm just going to delete that. What the hell does that have to do with anything? I already know there's a Baron. I'm gonna have to figure that out later. In fact, the barony, the local town, the seat of the barony, it's like a Mott and Bailey, probably with a town around it. It will get its own header. That'll be later. The Carter goes to Broad, never comes back. At first, no one connected the missing Carter with the missing town. Right, because how do they know? Yeah, the coursers notice first. I don't know about this. We had a couple of kickoff meetings for new Draw Steel products, including a couple of new starter adventures that we plan on like turning into real products that you can buy. Maybe even physical products. We don't know yet. And one of the things I said in one of these kickoff meetings was, you can't just meet the Hawk Lords and expect the players to understand have any context for what's happening. We tried that in the Bay of Black Bottom, which was like an intro to a temp adventure that we had written for Draw of Steel. And you have these factions like the Hawk Lords, like the Coursers. They're super cool, but you need to hear about them before you meet them. And then so this is not a bad opportunity to hear about them, but I don't think this is the context in which you hear about the Coursers. Like the Coursers are all like, I think if there were a level requirement to become a Courser, it would be like 5th level, which in our game, 5th level is like 10th level in D20 Fantasy. So I think the Coursers are just too cool to be involved in this in anything other than like an ancillary way. So what we probably need is, some Courser analog. You know what I mean? Some local group that, I don't know who that would be off the top of my head. It could be of too many entities in here. In other words, I don't want at first level the players to meet the Coursers. I want them to hear about the Coursers at best. And they certainly should not be meeting a Courser and then the Coursers have failed to do something. If 2 Coursers showed up to take care of this, we would need adventurers. They're a relatively high level secret society organization, whatever you want to call it. So what we need, so I'm going to edit this. The Coursers notice first? No. Someone does. Who? I don't know. Someone notices. Who? Matt doesn't know. Matt doesn't need to know right now. A knight of the Baron? A family member. That sounds good. Somebody who's related to somebody who lives there. Not anybody special. Not anybody special. Just people. Just a person or a couple of people. My sister lives over there, so my oldest boy and I, we decided to go see how they're doing. Never came back. But I think it could be a family member. Good question. Maybe a local Rangers guild or org. That would be a relatively low level allegory or an analog for the Coursers, not an allegory. But I like the idea of family members in the at the seat of the barony, which is a town, the baronial seat. The family members of the seat of barony go to check on their relatives in Broad, never come back. That's not bad. Definitely people would notice that. People would notice that, like normal people in this very, very small city. Very, very small city. Very little, much. It's a keep and a street, basically. They know, oh yeah, the people that live next door went out east to go see, because they hadn't heard from their family in Broad, and they never came back. And that would be one of those things where it's like, hang on a minute, has anybody seen the Carter? Right? So that I think alone would be sufficient, and it's a lot more grounded. The idea that the coursers found this out is crazy, like the Jedi finding it out. It's like, no, that's we're already beyond our pay grade. It's got to be normal local people. And I just like, this is a thing that a lot of people I have discovered. I've discovered that a lot of people in this hobby, a lot of people that work in it, they don't like the idea of focusing on normal people. For them, the fun is creating extraordinary people. And I'm like, well, the heroes are the extraordinary ones, and you should definitely have some extraordinary NPCs that are peppered around. But I think the whole point of the thing that makes the players feel like their characters are exceptional is by them meeting normal everyday people that are just trying to get through the day, that are a little bit worried and afraid of anybody with power, right? For any kind of power, they kind of want to keep their head down and let them kind of just pass through and do their thing. And by creating relatable people, I think you put everything that happens in the adventure into a sharper context. Whereas I think there was a lot of people in the hobby that want, they want everything to be cooler than everything else. And it's like, well, yeah, but then nothing's cool. So, a family. Yeah, let's say a family member. Let's ditch the Rangers org thing, right? Family members at the seat of the barony go to check out their relatives in Broad, never come back. So that's sort of an inciting incident, right? If you're sitting here in the baronial seat, right, and everything, people are bringing in the hay, it's that time of year, and there's commerce happening, and you have knights, and there's a wizard tower over there. What is the thing that causes everybody in this town, including the Baron, to know something's going on? Right? Oh, these people that we know. It's the wheelwright. It's a blacksmith. It's a furrier. Their family, some percentage of them went to Broad. No big deal. They never came back. And the reason they went was because I hadn't heard from Broad in a while. That's the kind of thing where people start looking around, going, "What's going on?" So I like that. They went. Yep. I already wrote that. Someone who knew them. Look at that. Past Matt already thought of this problem. Somebody who knew them. Okay, yeah. The captain of the guard brings this matter to the Baron's attention. Now there is an issue. It is now clear that getting to Broad and coming back safely is for some reason not possible. So far, so good. I believe in that. Cutting out the coursers, I think, and focusing on local people who went to go check out on their family makes sense. Also, I like the fact that, especially in our modern world, a big part of modernity is being separated from the people you grew up with and, moving and stuff like that. And so I like the idea that this is a medieval society and everybody knows everybody else and they're all checking in on everybody else and family ties run a lot deeper. We'll see. We'll see if that makes sense. Excuse me. So, but that was phase one, and the heroes weren't around for that. The first thing the Baron does is the Baron doesn't go, well, are there any mercenaries around here? The first thing the Baron does is send some members of the guards, men at arms or whatever, people at arms, to go check it out. And they thought that's gonna be it. Hang on a minute, I have to tell my watch to stop bothering me. I was gonna make a comment about how far back in time you'd have to go before that statement stopped making sense. But actually, all the way back in the 70s, they had digital watches that went beep, beep, and people would have to go, God damn it, my watch is making noises at me. They never come back. Yep, this is weird because they were explicitly told to come back. Yep. Now it's time to call. So phase one is, phase one is the town, this distant town goes silent, right? Phase two is people over here where there's the Baron. They notice that and they go to check it out and they disappear. So phase three is the Baron sends the militia. Yes, send the militia. That doesn't work. And at that point, the Baron is aware, there is like a black hole or something out there. And anyone I send out there, they disappear. So now I'm really careful about who I'm going to send. Whoever I send next have to have a unique combination of are likely to be able to solve this problem when everybody I know already failed. So they need to be pretty beefy when it comes to fighting monsters, and they need to be expendable, right? So, hey, it just happens that there's between 4 and 6 adventurers in town, however many people show up at my table when I decide to run this, right? So I completely believe in that. We can flesh that out. These are just notes and make it really solid. So that's still a good hook. Past Matt, good job. Probably, the fact that I'm doing this. It should be, I should have said this at the very beginning of the stream, but like, if I were doing all this on my own, this entire multi-stream process probably would have taken a weekend, right? But I'm explaining everything I'm thinking about, and I'm going back and I'm taking these things seriously, and going through the process live on stream causes it to take about 5,000% longer. All right, time to call in the specialists, the heroes. Yep. And I think when I looked at the comments, people really like the idea that however many PCs there are, that those characters plus an NPC go in. Because keep in mind, my assumption is that the heroes do not know each other when they meet. Some of them may have decided that they have a backstory together, but all of them will not have decided that. And so there's going to be, let's say, 5 player characters, and having there be one NPC with them who's like, I'm here with you folks. Yeah, I'm a specialist. They might have be a first level character, NPC character. But when they hear the job, they're like, no, I'm out of here. This reward is not enough for the risk. And kind of casting aspersions, or taking the piss out of the heroes and be like, you guys are all going to die. You know that, right? This could be there could be some like commentary on this, right? Where there could be some commentary on this where the NPC who hears the pitch and is like, I'm out of here, right? That does a bunch of different things. For one thing, it makes the heroes seem more heroic because they didn't run and they didn't give up and they didn't say no way, right? They said, yeah, we'll take the job. But also that character can say to the heroes, the only reason that the Baron chose you for this was because we're all expendable, right? Well, not me. I'm not expendable, right? So I like that. That's going to be a fun character to play. Very Han Solo-esque. And that character can come back to kind of save their bacon later on if necessary. Always nice to have release valves. You'd be surprised, I've said this before, you'd be surprised at how much Deus Ex Machina you can get away with as a director, and the players do not feel like you have robbed them of agency, especially when the players were the ones who got themselves into trouble in the first place. So when the players are the ones who, through their own pseudo ingenuity, have gotten themselves into a bind. If an NPC they know, not just some random person you say, if an NPC they know shows up to save them, they feel relief. And I think they feel like, we met that dude and that's why he came to save us. So I've never had that fail. I've definitely had Deus Ex Machina fail before, but that notion of an NPC the players have known in the past show up to help them, the players feel like that's realistic. That's, they feel like they're rewarded for remembering who that person was. It's hard to explain. But my instincts as a director were always like, well, I got to be careful about this because the players don't want this high level NPC to save their bacon. And then when it happens, the players are all hugely fucking relieved because usually it's a scenario where it was going to be a total party kill otherwise. And that, you'd be surprised at how much agency the players don't care about all of a sudden if this NPC saving their bacon means they get to keep playing their character. Suddenly, they love that NPC and they're super happy this is happening. So that's the context for this. Whoever this person is, yeah, they're a little materialistic. Yeah, very, very Han Solo-esque. I already said all this. The heroes have the chance before the audience with the Baron to do some intelligence gathering on their own. Come back to this once we know what the actual problem is and maybe plant a seed here. Well, let me put a note here. What might that seed be? There's I'm going to put this in brackets as a note to myself that this is almost like this is brainstorming, not actual adventure content. This is brainstorming. But if the problem is there's a demon cherry tree. I can't type while people are watching. Whose cherries, I don't know what they do. Do they send you to the Shadow Realm? Send you to, what a weird thing, what a weird sentence to write. Send you to the Shadow Realm. Maybe some of those cherries made it to the city. And no one connected it. But after the fact, it becomes, after the fact, someone could put two and two together. In other words, if the players choose to do a little digging before they go and be like, well, hang on a minute. They said there was like you said that the first time you realized there was something wrong was when some local merchants, some people who live here, who make a living here in the city, decided to go check on their family in Broad and never came back. Where's the rest of that family? We want to go talk to those people. Does anybody know those people? Right? That there's definitely a certain kind of player and a certain type of group, and I've been in those groups where it would never occur to them to go on this mission without talking to everybody involved ahead of time. Let's go do a little bit of Columbo work on this and go talk to those folks. And that's an opportunity for them to say, well, we thought about it when our neighbor went missing. What do you mean your neighbor went missing? Well, I think it was nothing, blah, blah, blah. And they could track down, oh, hang on a minute. Because your family, you got some of these cherries, you sold them to the neighbor ate them, and they're magic beans, which is crazy. I can't believe Matt in February is casting a lot of side eye at Matt in January about the idea that they're cherries. But I think that's probably what Matt in the past liked about them, is they're just normal fruit, man. They're just normal fruit. They could be apples or oranges. They could be whatever. I like cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms are pretty. An evil cherry blossom tree is a cool visual. That might have been where my head was at. But anyway, you get the idea. Does this make sense so far? I'm catching everybody up, but I'm also refreshing my own memory and revising things as I go. Does this make sense? Are there weird, visible, or audible effects? I don't think so. I think it might even be like one cherry doesn't do it. You got to eat a couple of them, and then I think you might just fade out. I haven't gotten to the end there. I haven't gotten to the end yet. I haven't gotten to the end of this. The Bomb 1234 says unrelated. Well, a sin upon ye asking unrelated questions, but a sin upon me for answering them. I just played Draw Steel for the first time. I'm going to cross my fingers. I bet they had a lot of fun. It seems like people who play Draw Steel really like it. We'll see. It was lots of fun. I was right. While we got well in over our heads, objective-based combat, good, I'm glad your director used that, and lots of movement options meant running away still felt heroic. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big part of, it's up to the director how much they use this. We have rules for objectives in combat, because I've always hated that kind of StarCraft attitude of the only way I can win is by literally destroying every single one of your buildings, and you're playing Terran, so you pick up one of your buildings and you fly them. I'm like, that's such bad sportsmanship, but really the issue is that they designed their game like that in the first place. This should be about, most combats should have an objective. Stop them from doing this, grab this thing, get out, save this person, and if it's just kill every last motherfucker in the room, that's more fun in Draw Steel than it is in other games, but sooner or later you start to get kind of burned out on it. Well, did I not say? Hang on a minute. Nope, I didn't. I did not say they're just some random fruit, because here I have 14 instances of cherries. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I talk about all sorts. Or maybe I talk about all kinds of fruit. Shannon Carl says, my players loved the Fall of Black Bottom test scenario so much, we've started a full-fledged campaign. That makes me happy. That makes game designers sleep well at night when they hear people are playing their game and they like it. Yeah, one of the starter adventures we are currently working on, we have greenlit and put into production, is a real version of the Fall of Black Bottom. Because one of the things we realized with our starter adventure was that we basically have two kinds of customer for Draw Steel, right? There are people who are showing up to Draw Steel for the first time and they don't know anything about it. They're excited to play. They've probably heard good things, or somebody is excited by it. That's the reason they're playing it. They might not be particularly that excited by it, but somebody in this group must be, right? And they know nothing. Okay, great. Then there's another group of people, and there's a lot of these folks who already know everything about it. They know what the power roll is. They know how potency works. They just want to play. Just gimme. Just want to get started. I've been following the Patreon. I watched all the videos. I've been hanging out in the streams. I watched James's streams. I watched Matt's streams. I've watched there's people playing it online. I just want to go. Okay, so what we need the, hey, what is this game? Starter adventure. And that's going to be the Dealing Tomb revised, expanded. And then I already know what this game is. I just want to get started. That's a hot start. And that's going to be a revised Fall of Black Bottom. So taking everything we learned from using that adventure in the playtest material and turning it into something quote unquote real. Hotech can. Why do we DMs always build evil trees? Was there an evil tree in Dusk? Was there an evil tree in the Chain of Acheron? Maybe there was. Am I going back to the same well over and over again? It is. Carol Snyder. Laundry Girl is saying, I'm waiting on the full release to run, as you should. The longer you wait to play Draw Steel, the better it will be. Was there a vampire tree in Dusk? Was there a vampire tree in Dusk? Dark Wizard, that's not a sentence. Connor, there was a vampire tree in 3rd edition. I feel like this has turned into a crazy fucking like stream of consciousness. And that now we've gone from talking about, yeah. Your mom's not a sentence. All right, well, that's what I get. Engineer Bill, is that Dusk or is that Dusk or this is what I get for asking chat questions. I apologize. I broke the rule. All right. So, okay, I'll come back to this. There are people in the seat of the barony with relatives and bro that went to investigate it. Got that. Actually, I'm going to delete this. It's redundant with how things already went. All right, so the heroes get debriefed. There's going to be an opportunity for them to kind of stay in town and just ask people what the hell's going on. And they might be able to actually scrounge up some useful information. But we'll figure that out later on. Once we've gotten to the end of the adventure and we feel pretty good about it, we'll come back to the beginning and we'll revise everything based on what we've learned since then. The heroes set out. They may have some early encounter wholly unrelated to the high weirdness. Nah, I don't believe in that. Whatever it is, it's probably nothing. It's fine. It's a character moment. They meet someone on the road to the barony. I question the wisdom of putting what this sounds like an interlude to me. So an interlude to me is an encounter, or maybe it's a mistake to describe it as an encounter, because I think encounters award XP. When you beat an encounter, you regardless of whether it's a trap, a negotiation, you get some XP. But an interlude is a scene that has no opportunity to gain XP from. It's literally, we're just going to give the player characters someone to hang out with and talk to for a moment, for a scene, and just role play. And it's its own reward, right? And that's what this sounds like. And I don't think this is the right time for that. What's up, Bulgaria? It's amazing for me to be experiencing this, Orandor. So thank you very much for your kind words. Nick Overgao. Yeah, I think it's the same one though, but I don't think we didn't go there, did we? But I appreciate getting an actual answer to the question. Right. So I question the wisdom of having the players set out into a Twilight Zone episode and then just meet a character from a completely different TV show, right? I understand why I wrote this when I wrote it, right? It's about verisimilitude. It's about, the idea that not everything in the world is related to this mission, this adventure, right? And having there be moments and things that happen in the adventure that are just the world being the world, right? And they don't advance the plot in any way. I do see that there's value in this, but I think for this as a starter adventure, this is the wrong time for that to happen. Unless I know who this character is, unless there's something about this character that makes it important that they show up now, and I don't know what that might be, right? I got a lot to think about here. Yeah. I do like the idea of the players getting blood on their hands or getting their swords wet before anything. So something like being attacked by bandits or something like that. I feel like I'm 50-50 on the idea of whether or not it makes sense for there to be kind of like a preamble, an encounter or an interlude that doesn't really have anything to do with the adventure. I don't know. Let me think for a second. I do like those kind of rug pull moments where the heroes think the fucking Nazgul is coming at them, and it turns out it's just Mary, right? And he's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, Jesus, it's just you, right? But Mary was a PC, right? And I don't have one of those in this instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this. I don't remember. I think, is it Control Shift 5? No. Is it Alt Shift 5? Yes. Haha! Second chance. Second time lucky. I'm going to leave this text in, but I'm going to strike it through as a way of letting future Matt know. Past Matt thought this was a good idea and then thought it was a bad idea. So maybe I'll come back around to it later on and but I don't want to delete it. I want to leave it. So shadows in the grass. The Carter and their family are found. I got to think about this. This was a cool idea when I wrote it, but there's a big difference between the Matt who is just putting ideas on the page and the Matt who has to run the damn thing, right? The Matt who has to run it needs to understand why these things are happening in a logical fashion. So the idea that the first thing that happens after the players set out, there's some travel, right? It might be a day or two. I don't know how far away this town is, but it's not an hour away. The Carter and their family are found. The heroes see something in a field of grass off the road. It's autumn, so the grass is brittle, golden, dying grass. When the heroes investigate, they discover the shadows of the Carter's family. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, but what was the Carter doing? What was the Carter doing? Were they just on the way to Broad? They were just on the way there, and they got attacked by shadow elves? Were they on their way back from Broad? Did they get there, see what happened, and come see? Well, let's follow that thread, right? They set out. The Carter went missing, and we're following up on that. The Carter gets to Broad and finds it's empty, and then tries to escape. And escape might not be the right word. Did they know there were shadow elves there? Maybe they were. Maybe they got chased. So I sort of believe in that. So, but let me make a note here. Right. The tracks lead from Broad. The Carter made it to Broad, and this happened on the way back. Does that make sense? Question mark? All the heroes sit around and debate what might have happened. The shadows move. These people are still alive somewhere. And I imagine them huddling together, right? Signs of battle. Maybe the heroes can block light. Right. The heroes can block the light making the shadows, but that light is not the sun. Right. That's cool. I like that. It's just me answering a question the players are going to ask. When the player's like, hey, can we do this? What happens? I already know the answer. Okay. So I still sort of believe that. This is another one of those moments where there's not any XP here. Nothing happens other than which is always dangerous, by the way. Those of you who've been directors for a long time know that anytime you do something like this, where you put, here's a moment in time that the players get to see and experience, and it is going to inform everything that happens later, but there's no encounter here. One of the things that happens is you get this moment or this period at the table where the player's like, what is going on? And this is amazing. And then they start to understand what's happening. I think these guys are still alive somewhere, right? These shadows they're alive somewhere else, and they're obviously, look at them, they're terrified. Okay, cool. How do the players know, okay, that's it, that's the end of this scene, move on? That's always the trick, is what is the thing that causes the players to put this down and move on? And I am going to say they hear something from the trees, right? If the next encounter is the missing knight, near a copse of trees, the heroes see what appear to be humanoid figures. They investigate. Maybe. So that's the question, is how do we get out of this scene? It's a super important thing I think a lot of directors don't think of. And eventually what you say is, guys, there's nothing more to learn here. And the players go, oh, okay. And they don't really mind that. Players, when they get into that state, they like being told, any more time on this and you're wasting your time. But I think it's better if it happens naturally, right? So this scene ends when the players hear or see something from The cops of yeah. This is one of those words where when I use it, I feel like I'm deploying an obscure word where a normal word would do, but I don't know what the normal word is for a really tiny little forest. So if there's a missing knight, if they could see they might see from a distance light glinting off the weapons, right? And they go, oh shit, there's people over there. Let's go. That's a perfectly legitimate way to get from this scene to the next one. That makes sense? Grove makes as much sense as anything else. Near a grove of trees, the heroes see what appear to be humanoid figures. They investigate. They find the men at arms. Right. So this was, yeah. If I sort of feel like I've multiplied entities unnecessarily. A Carter went missing. I think that's redundant if there are people in the seat of the barony who are related to the people in Broad, and they go check out to see what happened. They load up a cart. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Carter and that family of people in Broad. I'm just going to make them the same. There are people in chat who probably thought they were the same anyway, right? I'm going to make them the same group because I don't need two. I don't need two of these. Unless I do. I'm just weighing the dramatic opportunities here. If there's a Carter and a family that went to go see if their relatives were okay, there's two different opportunities to meet people who have tried to go to Broad. So maybe the Carter gets waylaid on the way back. Maybe the people are still there when we get to the town. That's the reason I'm trying to think to, like, do I have too many entities, or is this an opportunity now that I have these two different groups, the Carter and his family or their family, and the family members of the people in Broad back in town who I should come up with a name for them so it's easier to talk about them. The Richardsons, the Richardsons family, and there we find these are two different groups. Do I need both of them? We'll see. This is a pretty typical. If this were a video game, we would probably spend 1.5 years on this. So it's not going to take us 1.5 years, thank fuck. I was going to go delete that, but I decided not to. We're not even caught up to where we were before. But the good news is that break we took between episode 2 and episode 3, which is this one, we'll probably continue doing this over the, like, at least next weekend we'll do this. We'll pick this up because I am now done. I'm now finished all my authorial work on Drawsteel, and everything else I have to do on Drawsteel is just editing, and that's easy for me to do, and there's not that much of it, and so we're kind of back on track for stuff like this and more videos and whatnot. I already have a script I'm working on. Actually, I have a script I think I'm almost done with. So near a grove of trees, the heroes see what appear to be humanoid figures. They investigate. They find the missing men-at-arms. I'll write that here. Missing. They've been turned into thorn sculptures. I love that. There is no flesh or bone or leather, or maybe there is. Maybe there is still metal. Maybe the weapons of their metal and armor remain. Everything else but the metal got converted, which sort of might start to point in the direction of something elven, something fairy. You can see their arms and armor on their bodies, but everything's made of bark and leaves, thorn and vines. That's cool. The knight is not among them. Makes sense. They were obviously in battle. The Shadow Elves have their own thorn dragon, Bazacarnifax. That's pretty cool. 2 Z's seems excessive. Hang on a minute. Yeah. Baz. Yeah, okay. They detected the knight and the soldiers and sent their thorn dragon. They fight the thorn dragon. It attacks basically whenever the players figure out what it is they're looking at. And I think so. Here's the thing. I gotta make a note here. Look at this. It's sort of the beginning of our first encounter. Needs to level 3 header. Needs to be different from your normal Thorn Dragon in two ways. One, it turns people into these thorny things. Right? Because we need to, if it can't do that, then how do these knights get turned into these thorny sculpture things? And then two, we need some evidence that the dragon is controlled by the Shadow Elves. That is not how you spell controlled. Right? And I'm thinking it's literally a crown. Literally a crown. Maybe because I just reread one of my all-time favorite things, Lock and Key. It's a graphic novel series of comic books from Joe Hill and an artist whose name is right on the tip of my tongue, but I don't remember what it is. And so I'm imagining like a crown that the elves put on this dragon and it masters them. Right. And so now the dragon, and it might not be that. It might not be that. It might be the dragon didn't mind working for the dragon was happy to work for the Shadow Elves. You know, that makes as much sense to me as anything. But what I want is that moment where there's something that tells the players, because they're going to defeat this dragon and that's it. The dragon's going to be dead. How are they going to ever learn that the dragon was working for the Shadow Elves? They need some physical object. Right? So something like a crown that is placed here. A crown, I was actually imagining that it might be like an arrow that the Shadow Elves shot into this dragon, and it gave them mastery over it, and that players find that arrow. Could be an arrow. So that's important. This is one of those things that I'm going to think really hard about, including off stream, because if I can solve this, it's going to be big. The idea that the players need to understand that this dragon is the work of their enemy, one way or the other, right? The Thorn Dragon is a natural phenomenon. The Shadow Elves didn't create it, but they mastered it somehow. It's always possible that the players might try to negotiate with it. Let me look up. How smart is a Thorn Dragon? Didn't I do this last time? Let's find out together. Oh, is Duroc here? What's up? Sorry, we could not find this thing. That is bad news. Being unable to open that. Did we change the name of it? Oh, yes, we did. And I didn't. That's the old one. Thank fuck. We changed the name. Well, we didn't change the name. It had the wrong name. And then I just asked that it be converted to the correct name. That's a good point. Their assassin. That how smart Thorn Dragons are in general is one question, but we can make this one as smart or as stupid as we want it to be. I have to wait for this document to finish loading. Thorn. Oh wow, Willie already added this, but why did this text get cut off? There, I'll fix it. Have you folks heard? Raise your hand if you're not a patron. It's not. I'm not trying to shame anybody. If everyone here is a patron, then we can move on. Okay, John Herzog is up. Intelligence dice. Okay. So all y'all who are not patrons. Helena Real, it's not a thing to be sad or happy over. It's just a thing. It's just a Boolean. It's just a check bit. Okay. All y'all who are not patrons have not heard this. So if you'll indulge me, we're going to take a little detour here. Since I'm here in the Dragons section anyway, Willie, who is who's in charge of the monster book, he's the monster master, so to speak, said, "Hey Matt, I've got an empty page between the end of the previous section and the beginning of the dragon section. Do you want to write some fiction about dragons?" And I was like, yeah, sure. And what happens when somebody on the team says, "Matt, I just have a space here and I need some fiction about this subject," what they get is whatever I was inspired to write. So you will see as I read this, even though it is at the beginning of the dragons section, it's missing something that you would think dragon fiction would have, right? So we will, this is really short. It's like a page and a half of text, so it's not gonna be that indulgent. But some of you might enjoy this, and this is the kind of stuff, the patrons get stuff like this all the time. In fact, the patrons, I think this week, are gonna get an actual big chunk of fiction about one of the iconic heroes. It's gonna be really big and it's super awesome. All right, so yeah, you turn the page, and here's the section on dragons, and there's some fiction. John, you don't have to do this. Sir John ignored his draconian friend. Maybe ditch the arms and armor, Bootblack said. No, I thought of that. John looked down at his gear. This is who I am. I go in there under some pretense, and I might foul the whole thing up. He shook his head. Just another kind of trick. Actually, let me expand this so it's a little bit easier to read. He turned to Embers. Any luck? He asked. Embers' eyes, currently solid starscape, faded into her normal gold-flecked azure eyes. Yes, she said, and some tension fled from the group. Matt does not know how to pronounce it. Matt changed this name, and now he doesn't know how to pronounce it. Korovixiar, the Forge of Pain. Oh, wonderful, Jackson Bootblack said while the rest of the team groaned. Embers recalled her void vision. I know this dragon, she said, and closed her eyes. Wings like sword blades. Korovixiar raised a dwarven city, the city of Cal Etherion. Dazar gave John a look. John, Cal Etherion was sacked 12,000 years ago. That says 10,000, and I increased the distance by 2,000. It wanted the legendary armor of Zor, the Metal Master of Etherion. They treated with it. It allowed them to evacuate the city first. Embers opened her eyes and looked at John. It can be reasoned with, she said, and nodded. I think it'll work, John said. Vanticalisax put a hand on the pommel of his mace. Why? He demanded. I'll tell you why, Jackson said. Everybody looked at the polder. Well, we all know it's in there, right? Jackson asked, gesturing to the cave. They nodded. Well, then it, or he, I guess, knows we're out here. And it hasn't roasted us yet, so maybe he's waiting to hear our offer. John smiled at the troubadour having come to the same conclusion he had. He turned to Embers. A crucible dragon? She nodded. He sighed. The crucibles made fortresses of iron, steel, and they burn with eternal heat, Dazar said, the second most qualified lore master among them. This is just a cave, he said. Gwiliv appeared with what looked like a metal roof shingle. She passed it to a mist curls around dying Embers. You could see how heavy it was by the way she held it. Yes, Embers said, looking at the metal dragon scale made of blackened iron. She pressed her palm against it. Metal scored over centuries and impregnated with ancient soot. This creature had a home recently, such as you described, Theocron. But something happened, and it was forced to flee. Wounded, probably. This would have been years ago, and it slumbered here since. Then something woke it. She turned the heavy metal scale over in her hands. When a dragon gets this old, all it knows is pain. It becomes hateful. Spiteful. Yeah, I had a toothache once. It was a bitch. I know how it feels, Bootblack said. Everyone ignored him. There has to be some other option, Sir Vanticalisax said. Well, I talked to Philinvir, or however you pronounce it, John said. The Thorns are at an impasse. They can't pull back without exposing whole villages to this thing, and they can't bring it down. So we fight, Dazar said, and gripped his staff in a battle stance. John shrugged. They tried that, he said. If the Thorns couldn't take this thing down, I doubt we could. Time to try something else. Dazar came to inspect the dragon scale. Vanticalisax grabbed John by the arm. John, do you know what you're doing? He said under his breath. Others had asked essentially the same question, but this was Vant. John smiled at his friend. Yeah. He looked at the group arguing about the wisdom of his plan and gestured with his head toward a boulder before walking away from the group. Vant followed. When they were out of earshot, John explained his plan. Look, I don't believe in coincidences, okay? We need the Thorns at the keep when Saxton shows up. So what happens? They're tied up with this dragon. Well, that's pretty nice for Saxton, isn't it? He left it at that, waited for Vant to catch up. Vant looked around. It took him a second. Then he looked at John. You think Saxton got here before us? Yes, I do, John said. I told you I talked to Flinvir, right? Do you know what they said? John paused for a moment and his eyes unfocused as he remembered what Embers said the dragon's name was. Korovixiar, he said, suddenly coming back to reality, started this vendetta against the Woad Elves a week after Saxton came to power. And I think it might have been less than a week. Ah, Vant said, impressed. And you don't believe in coincidences. If Embers is right, this dragon might be the most dangerous thing of any kind in the entire duchy. If I were Saxton, getting that thing on my side would be my first priority. Because if it works, Vant said, you start your campaign with a powerful ally. And if it doesn't, then he starts with a powerful enemy. So the first thing he does is find out which side the dragon's on. Because that dictates his entire strategy. Vant was impressed, and more impressed because he'd known John for years and was still surprised. Well done, John. Vant acted like the dragon was already on their side. Everyone thinks this is some big risk, some daring ploy. John was looking at the rest of the team. He shook his head, then looked back at Vant. But if Saxton did it, if he talked to this thing, I can. And I'm a better negotiator. Because you're not an unrepentant... Vant couldn't remember what the polder Jackson Bootblack had called Lord Saxton earlier. Cockbag, John finished for him. I'm not an unrepentant cockbag. Yeah, that's the idea. Smart, Vant said and shook John's hand. Good luck. Hey, Jackson Bootblack said. John turned to look at him. Saxton's armor is made from the Whispering Iron, he said. It's only found in hell. Pretty good prize for a dragon with taste who turned out to be on the right side. Or no side. John looked from the polder to the others. Is that true? Or did you just make it up? I'll tell you after you come out, Bootblack smiled. If you come out. John shook his head with amused exasperation. Bootblack spread his hands and bowed deeply. Sir John proceeded toward the cave. John, Ember said. John sighed and stopped. Flatter him, the Void Mage said. Appeal to his vanity. Remind him that he's the most powerful thing in all Omen's land. I got it, John said, and filed the information away. He didn't really know what he was going to say. He was just going to present himself and see what happened. And if you're wrong, Gwiliv whispered. John could barely hear her, but he could guess what she said. He shrugged with one shoulder. If I'm wrong, we're all going to die anyway. There's no point in living in fear. Anyone else? No one said anything. Only Vant and Embers could look him in the eye. Wish me luck, Sir John said, and walked alone into the dragon's lair. So, let's see what we can see about thorn dragons. These are a bunch of named dragons. Here we go. Oh, wow, okay. Oh, these are Draconians, which are the dragon knights. These are cool. There's a whole bunch of unique dragon knights that you can use in your adventures, either as allies or enemies. And then here we go. Dragons, thorn dragon, thorn dragon, thorn dragon, thorn dragon, level 2 solo. Level 2 solo means too beefy for a first level party, but I'm going to do it anyway. Their reason is -1. Okay. All right. So they're dumb, but there are people stupider than them. So a thorn dragon is, I would say, like dumb like humans can be done. And they've got a whole dope ass page of shit they can do, which you guys cannot see, but we're not really building an encounter right now. So what they have is, they have an ability called Virulent Breath. It's an action. It's a signature action, so they can do it every round. It doesn't cost them anything. It's a line that is 10 squares long, 1 square wide, and it starts with them. It only affects enemies. Everybody in the line has to make a might test. Oh, and this is, and if you roll badly. Okay, so, and then we talked about this before. I'm gonna make a note if I haven't already. You get dragon sealed if you fail if you roll badly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace whatever dragon sealed does. Effect, until the condition ends, a creature dragon sealed by the dragon has their wounds overtaken by nettles and thorns, and they take an additional die of damage. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a note here and say thorn dragon, virulent breath. Creatures killed by this dragon turn into thorn sculptures, which is sort of what the Virulent Breath is doing anyway, right? Virulent Breath until the condition ends. These creatures have their wounds overtaken by nettles and thorns. They take an additional die of damage from conditions that deal damage. Yep. Makes sense to me. So if they're bleeding or poisoned or something like that, makes total sense. All I'm doing is amplifying that. Creatures killed by this dragon turn into thorn sculptures. That's all I got to do. And now I understand, how did this thorn dragon make these guys? Done. So we need a bit. We need this bit here, which I'm just going to think about. And we're not going to solve it right now. It could be a crown, but it needs to be one of those things where, yeah, let's talk about this for a second. The players don't know what a shadow elf is yet, right? That's important. Understanding what the players know, when they know it, and how they learn new things is, I think, a critical part of being a good adventure designer. So they don't know that the shadow... Matt has an idea. It's always a good sign when Matt starts referring to himself in the third person. The players don't know what the shadow elves are. So how are they going to know that this thorn dragon is controlled by them? What if the thorn dragon is possessed by a shadow elf? And that when the thorn dragon dies, this creature kind of falls out of it, and they're like, "What the hell was that? It's a corpse." But I feel like I'm kind of getting too close to. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say these things, but actually, then making them work is tricky. I do like that idea that when they kill the thorn dragon, there's this reveal that inside it, right? It was being Jaegered around by a shadow elf. And the player's like, what is that thing? Was it inside the thorn dragon? Did it possess the thorn dragon? Did it become corporeal only when we killed it? I think it would be good if the players could get answers to those questions, right? But otherwise, it's just a corpse. And seeing a corpse of a shadow elf, that's cool, right? And they're like, what is this thing? Look at it. Let's make a note of that. It's, you know what? Could it be when the thorn dragon dies, the heroes see/discover a shadow elf soulbinder? I'm just gonna make this thing up. That sounds vaguely actionable, right? The idea that this thorn dragon. The question is it possible that the heroes can notice this ahead of time? Is it possible that while they're fighting this thing, this is always tricky because battles in Draw Steel happen fast. I don't mean fast as in they take just as long as a D20 battle, but they're awesome, and you were doing cool shit the entire time, and amazing stuff is happening. And as a result, like, you know, most battles in Draw Steel end in between 2 and 3 rounds. They're crazy fast in terms of rounds compared to a D20 fantasy. For that very reason, because every single turn, the game state is changing. There is no, do I get to take my turn die? So it's always dangerous to be like, will the players notice this in this battle? Because battles tend to be over in a relatively, it's not unusual for you to only get to take 2 or 3 actions in a battle. And then, of course, you get to use your triggered action. You're making attacks of opportunity and stuff like that. So you're doing all sorts of stuff, even when it's not your turn. But I'm wondering if the players could figure out that this thorn dragon is not of his right mind. Is there any clue? Man, I'm really conflicted about a lot of this. Because I can see this going. I can see this going lots of different ways. Well, I'm just gonna not overthink this for now and just press on, because one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm auditing all the decisions I made. This is the first time I've gone back and just read through everything I've already written after letting it lay fallow for a while, and it's making me think things. And so it's like, well, is this the best use of the Thorn Dragon? You know, how does this? What was it that sent the Carter and their family into the Shadow Realm? It obviously wasn't this Thorn Dragon. The Thorn Dragon turns people into thorns, right? So who was it that maybe it was the Shadow Elves. That makes sense, I guess. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it. It's okay if this adventure is somewhat disjointed now, because we're just dreaming it up. Once I get to the end, I'll be inventing more stuff. And it's often the case that you got to kind of press on with an outline and be like, it's okay if this now seems problematic to me. As I press on, I will be inventing more things, and some of these things may be solutions to this thing. So once you've gotten to the end and you've got your first gross draft, so to speak, then you can start saying, okay, does this make sense? Is this the best thing? Now that I know this, maybe I can tweak this better. And so there's a certain amount of thought that I could put into this that would be bad bang for buck, and we've reached that. So let's move on. Thorn Dragon, we already know more about this encounter than we did last time. The dog, the coursers weren't two, there were three. A human, I don't think, we don't like coursers. The players meet the dog. He escaped, whatever. The dog is still the dog. Okay, so I don't think the coursers need the family who went to check on their relatives in Broad had a dog. It's not a special dog. I don't think this dog was a special dog, so I think I can just cut the coursers entirely. Whatever fate befell his owners. The dog is still a dog, has his original, but it's changed. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. They find evidence of the coursers. No, I think, where does the dog lead them? All right, hang on a second. How you folks doing? Socratic Lover says, as a reminder, Matt is not looking for advice. No, in fact, it's the other way around. If I just wanted somebody else to make an adventure for me, there's about 100 billion adventures online. I just go download one of them, right? But this is me showing anybody who's interested, which might not be you right now in this moment, that's fine. But me showing anybody who's interested how I design an adventure from scratch and kind of walk you through the process. And, you know, not if this were an adventure. Let's start again. Let's start from scratch. Hang on a second. Because what I was thinking of, like, we've now had 2 kickoff meetings about real products for Draw Steel, not just something I'm going to run on my own that's just for me, but actual products. And those kickoff meetings, we tend to do a lot of brainstorming, and we write the brainstorming down, and then we ask the author to go scurry away and take all these notes and come back with an outline, right? And then we all get together again and we read the outline. So I was thinking to myself, we could synthesize that, but A, this isn't a kickoff meeting. There's no one else in the call. B, I think we've kind of already done that. So let's just keep going. So we find the family dog. Actually, let me bring up this. This is kind of useful, having this outline here. How does this look to you folks? Oh, you guys can't see that, but if I do this, you can. There we go. So now we can see the outline. Family dog who went to check on the relatives in Broad had, the family who went to check on the relatives in Broad had a dog. The players meet the dog. Yeah, so as the mod said, or I don't know if it was a mod. Was it a mod? It wasn't Ahmad. It was who was it? Socratic Lover. As Socratic Lover said, I'm not looking for advice. I'm not looking. I'm trying to show you folks my thought process. If you're not interested in that, that's fine. You got the whole rest of the internet to go play on. But this is me showing folks how I think, which for some people has value. Most people don't need me to go make adventures. They can just do it themselves. But I thought it might be fun for you folks to watch me do this. Players meet the dog. So what is the point of the dog encounter? He can lead the players, but lead them where? Where they need to be led to. The dog leads them somewhere. Does it lead them to Broad? They don't need to be led to Broad. There's a road to Broad. I don't believe in this anymore. And the Shadow Elves attack. I think it's way too early for the Shadow Elves. Is this it? Is that it? Is that it? They just meet a messed up dog? I think that might be enough. And cure it. Then adopt it. Because reuniting the dog with its family might be awesome. You know, that works for me. And the question of where I know the answer. I gotta come up with a better name for this. So the dog does not want to lead them to Broad. That's not where its family is. Its family is at the tree getting ready to be sacrificed. So the dog is like, guys, let's go. Come on, don't stay on the road. The road is stupid. The road's just going to lead you to the town. And then I'm going to have to do what I'm trying to do anyway, which is get you guys to the tree. Right. And so that is really interesting to me because there's a road that goes to this town. And the players have been told, go investigate that town. But now they've met this dog. And if they can cure the dog, which I'm not even going to worry about that yet. I'm not going to worry about what's wrong with the dog exactly and how can it be cured. I'll solve that problem later. But the notion that the dog wants to take you to the end of the adventure right now. Right. And then the player's like, do we follow this dog or not? That's a good, I like that. It's up to the player. I don't know what the players are going to do. I actually don't know what's going to happen in Broad that's going to make it useful to go there or not go there. So I don't know that there's a right answer to this question. I don't like there being right answers. I like it just being, it is a choice to make. And then if they go to the town first and then the tree, that's good. But if they go to the tree first and then the town, that's good too. We'll see. This is an aside. This doesn't have anything to do with the plot exactly. Are there players whose characters or backgrounds might indicate that they have a prophetic dream or an oracular vision about these events? If just in case I need it, a vision might be a cherry tree in a grove, in an orchard. No, not an orchard. It's in a forest. Wild. It's in blossom. But the blossoms are blood red. That's a good vision. That's a good vision. And it might just be, I call it a tree. Right? There's a tree in the forest and it blossoms, and then let the player ask what kind of tree it is. Right? If they don't ask, that's fine. They don't have to ask. It's just a tree, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that it's a cherry tree might be of use later on. Okay, so eventually the heroes get to Broad. How you folks doing? I realize we've been streaming for a while. I feel like we've been streaming for a while and not made a lot of progress, but I knew that was going to happen because it's been 6 weeks since last time I sat down with this. If you don't follow the dog, you are evil. What's that, Lassie? Jimmy's being sacrificed. The Dog of Cthulhu. I love that episode of Lassie. Brode. Probably going to change this name. When the heroes arrive in Brode, it is empty. It is a beautiful day, blue sky, white fluffy clouds, birds chirping, no people. In fact, there's evidence the people left in a hurry. There are meals half eaten. The people dropped everything and left. There are shadows. They behave the same way the shadows in Act 1 behave until some of the shadows are shades who attack. Are they? Do we have shades? Is that a monster? I don't know. I just happen to have a monster book. You guys can't see this, but shade. What happens if I just type in shade? Is that a monster? Is that real? Shade song. Shadow elf. Oh, there are a lot of, I found the shadow elves. Oh, they're nasty. They're way too nasty to be bad guys in this adventure. Oh. Nerd. Yes. Yes, there are shades in this game. Thank God. I just got lucky. They are a level 1 minion, so there could be a lot of these. That's fine. That's fine. But I can use shades. Are there shadows? Are shadows? Actually, if I search for shadow, I'm going to get a million things. Undead, third echelon undead are nasty. Umbral Stalker, that sounds good. Spectre, that sounds good. We have a lot of incorporeal undead that I can use for this purpose. Great, A+. This young girl is an infant crying. It's all a very Star Trek episode, very Andromeda strain, which is the reference I was going for, so it's good that I remember that. The young girl's allergic to something in cherries. The cherries are a shadow fruit. They aren't real cherries. They're small. They're not real cherries. They're their own thing. So I like that. The fact that they're not actual, hang on a minute, these things just look like cherries. They're actually a different fruit altogether. To the forest, exclamation point. By hook or by crook, the dog is named Crook. By hook or by crook, the players figure out that it was eating the cherries that turned people in the shadow. All right, let's figure what the hell's going on here. That turned people into shadows or summon the shadow elves. So it's time to head into the forest where the cherry tree lives. So let me. Oh, hey, what's up, RJ3? That's me. I'm glad to see your name in chat. Right, good question, Uncle Dwallin. Where they drain your strength, so you're more likely. As the combat goes on, you are less and less likely to win. First, I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to take a quick and not real poll here. It isn't a bad name for a dog, actually. Crook. By hook or by crook. The players figure out that it was either. So, the question is, where does the final battle in this adventure take place? I think I know the answer. Yeah. The question is it reasonable for a first level adventure to go to another manifold, another world? And I think the answer is it's draw steel. The answer is yes, right? Even though this is a perfectly medieval land, right? It's carters and knights and there's a baron and men-at-arms. At first level, you are going to go in to Equinox. Right? So, yeah, I think the structure of this adventure is now revealing itself to me. I think the demon tree is in the mundane world with us, and it is a gateway into Equinox. So people are fed into the tree, and the people watching, they don't know that they're going into another realm. They just think this tree is going nom 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 go, right? And so they think their people are dead, but they're not dead. They're in this other realm. And so I think there is a battle against this. Is there a battle? Do you fight the tree? Maybe not. Where assassin? I'm sorry. That's not. What? Is that an answer to my question? It sounds. Yeah. Sorry, I'm making the mistake of trying to read chat. How many sessions do I think it would take? I think like 3. I think like, I don't know, maybe 2. I don't know, maybe 1, depending on how much time we spend. Do we make characters? I don't like, I'm fundamentally opposed to the idea of a session 0. I think that you should if you didn't play the first time you played, then you didn't play, and that was not a session. So I try to make sure that even if we make characters together, at least we get started on the adventure. I only see bad outcomes happen between getting started on one week and playing the next week. Players tend to get themselves really psyched up about something that then they spend that week getting excited and the real thing doesn't pay off. So when you make characters, you should at least get started on the adventure, and then that's your first session. So I think I don't know how many sessions long this is going to be. I don't expect they're going to finish it in one go. Let me put it that way. Players never get anywhere near as much done as you think, right? There's a lot of really imprecise language in the community about the concept of a one shot. And I don't know that anybody understands what that term means. Do you mean literally an entire adventure that you finish in one session? That doesn't happen very often, especially not when you're not with not the way people tend to use the term one shot as like an introductory thing where it's like, man, you do not get that much done in one session, right? Or do you mean one shot? I think to some people, the term one shot now means an adventure, meaning something that you play over multiple sessions, but it's self-contained. It's not a campaign. It's a beginning, middle, and an end. It's one story, in which case this is a one shot. So yeah, I have no idea how many sessions this is going to be. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll let you know after I'm done running it. But definitely there is one part of this adventure that ends at the tree in the forest. And then you go to Equinox, which is where the people are and they're still alive and they're getting ready to be sacrificed, right? So let's keep going. By hook or by crook, the players figure out that it was eating the cherries that turn people into shadows, right? What does eating the cherries actually do? Sorry, I apologize, folks. I was not asking for. Yeah. A lot of people are giving me their ideas about what a one-shot is, and I thought what I was talking about was the fact that there is not consensus. So you telling me what you think a one-shot isn't. I don't think it's going to solve that. Yeah, Uncle Dwalin says, I swear basically every 0 level DCC module has you facing off against something you wouldn't normally see until 5th level in 5e. What? Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know exactly what that is commentary on. Although I do think the fact that Shadow Elves second echelon, that's too high level. I don't feel comfortable downgrading those guys. Let me check. What echelon are you guys? You guys are 4th level. I think that's 2nd echelon. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So I don't know. It looks to me like they're 4th level. Some of them are 6th level. 4th level, 5th level. Yeah. Yeah, these guys are 2nd echelon, which is like 2nd tier of play. F. Well, I definitely like the Shadow Elves as bad guys here. But what it's probably going to have to be I think there is a Shadow Elf that is behind this whole thing. So the players can fight that guy. And only one of them, not a big deal. And I think maybe the thing, the rinse and the basic soldier that you're fighting in this adventure are dark dwarves from Equinox. We don't know anything about, they're shadow dwarves. We don't know anything about the dwarves of Equinox. But normal dwarves are like first, second, third level. They're first echelon here in this book. You know, dwarves, shadow elves, humans, they can be any echelon. They can be first, second, third level, third tier, whatever you want to call it. But in the book in this first monster book, the dwarves you can fight are first echelon, so that's not a problem. So just keep that in mind, is that there can be a shadow elf. There can be a shadow elf who's the bad guy here, right? And that's cool, that's fine. It's not a problem having a second echelon villain as the bad guy, but the normal rinse and repeat bad guys are the people who work for that dude, and that is probably a bunch of shadow dwarves. And I don't know what a shadow dwarf is, because we just made that idea up. So probably what I'm gonna do is take the normal dwarves, and I'm gonna take whatever their common trait is, if indeed they have one. Do I notice these dwarves have anything that they all share that makes them all dwarfy? No. Probably stability. The fact that they have high stability and high stamina is what makes them dwarves. And there isn't a dwarf ability. So what I need to do is I need to make up a shadow dwarf ability and then just give all these guys the shadow dwarf ability, and then I've got shadow dwarves. Yeah, come up with one ability, copy paste, I've got an entirely new species. So what is the link from the cherries to the tree? And the only thing I can think of right now is that eating these cherries causes you to go to the tree. You volunteer. Yeah. Yeah. You eat these cherries and you want everybody else to eat them. So let's talk. So probably this is a good place for a header, right? Put it right here, the cherries. Header 2. What are these things? They are the fruit of the we'll use this. This is just I was trying to come up with a real good name for what this thing is, and I don't have one off the top of my head, so I'm just going to borrow a name that I liked from an earlier adventure. Right? Eating the cherry. So the tree is a thing to fight. Eating the cherries does a few things. Let's make a list. Let's make an actual, honest to God, listicle. You want more. You can tell who this is very right out of Return of the Archons, which I was noodling. I was giving up on the Odessa as the target for my Leibniz modulation and switching to tides and going from the Odessa and wrestling with the chord structure, manually building chords for the Odessa was such a pain in the ass, and I'm so bad at it. But Tides has a built-in chord structure knob, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much better. And while I was doing that, Return of the Archons, I just had it on, and that's, the people, if you are of the body, you can just tell when you're talking to somebody else that they're not of the body, right? So you can tell when someone hasn't eaten the cherries, and you try to get them to do it. Very Invasion of the Body Snatchers too. If you haven't seen that, who directed? Was it Peter Weir? Who's the director of that 1970s Invasion of the Body Snatchers? God damn! For a movie that they remake like every generation, because you can do it cheap because it's horror. You can either just do it cheap or you can do it for real. That is such a good remake. That is such a terrifying fucking movie. I saw that movie when it came out with my mom, because my mom, she was the target audience for it. And it's like, wow, that was a scary fucking movie. Philip Kaufman, the guy that did The Right Stuff. Damn. And like that movie scared the piss out of me. I was probably, Yeah, very young Jeff Goldblum. Leonard Nimoy is in it. I think Veronica Cartwright is in it, basically playing the same character she's going to play in Alien. But isn't it 76? When did that movie come out? When did that 1970s Invasion of the Body Snatchers? And isn't it technically a sequel? Didn't they go 78? Oh my God, it's after Star Wars, but before Alien, 1978. And so I would have been 8 years old. And I was too young to see that movie. That movie scared me. And it was super good though. But I believe the dude from the first movie makes a guest appearance at the main character from the 1950s Invasion of the Body Snatchers is in the beginning of that movie. The idea being in fact, I think it's almost like a match cut, isn't it? That like the very last thing that happens at the end of the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers happens right before the beginning of the new one. We should just go watch that movie again. Wouldn't that be fun? Anyway. The cherries on the tree. Hang on a minute. What are you doing here, coursers? Villagers. Just making a spot check there. If it was in black and white, then you were watching the original version. What are these things? Good question, Matt. What are these things? They're the fruit of the bleeding tree. The tree itself is a monster. It has attacks and everything. Eating the cherries does a few things. One, you want more. Nom, 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 nom. Two, you can tell when someone hasn't eaten and you try to get them to eat some. Not violently, just insistently. And three, eventually you run out of cherries and are compulsively drawn to the tree. You stop acting like yourself. What is this starting to sound like, actually? What is this starting to sound like? Suspiciously like. Your tongue is blue. That's fine. Oh yeah, Dr. Flim Flam. Don Kagan's lectures. You can just watch all of them. I would not be surprised if no one can guess what I'm thinking of, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can. Yes, John Herzog against the cult of the reptile god. Yeah, Dragon Fruit and John Herzog got there just at the same time, right? It's a town full of people, except here they're missing, but it's a town full of people who have kind of become like, hello, hi, welcome, right? Because yeah, for two different reasons. So yeah, and then there's a swamp. Instead of a swamp, this is just my version of against the cult of the reptile god. Wouldn't that eventually be better if there were no people in it? And instead of a giant Naga demon queen lady, there's a tree. Nope, that's not better. Giant demon queen Naga lady's better. But we're not done yet. Add a rattle one. You're welcome. I'm glad. Anytime people get value out of this, that makes me happy. So this is very against the cult of the reptile, against the tree of the shadow people. Oh, by the way, didn't I see that the Stone Tapes is coming out on Blu-ray? It's super interesting. Anyway, what are these trees? You stop acting like yourself. You become a dreamy thrall. And you willingly enter the tree. And you willingly enter. Once you're in Equinox, the spell wears off and you are scared. Yep, I like that. So hey, does it seem like a sort of a structure, a plot structure is appearing out of the mist, out of the fog? It only took 3 sessions, 15 hours or whatever it is, right? So now we sort of have beginning. We start off in the town. There's people who've gone to go check on their relatives that no one's heard anything from. So these people are gone. Opportunities for investigation, opportunities for role playing with the Baron, and then you head out. And once you're out of town, weird things start happening. There's a couple of encounters. We're going to audit those. Maybe not. Maybe we need more. Maybe we need different ones. Maybe the ones we have are fine. I don't know. But then eventually we get to the town. The town's empty. Everybody's gone. But there's all this evidence that these cherries are to blame. And you can follow. At this point, it's easy to get from the town to the tree because you can just follow the tracks of the people. They weren't rangers that were hiding their tracks. There's 70 or 80 people live in this town or in and around here, and so there's just all these tracks going off into the forest. And you got the dog pulling you on your way. You go, you find the tree. The people aren't there, but there's a pissed off tree that wants to kill you. You fight the tree, and then I don't know what it means to go into the tree after you fight the tree, except. When the tree dies, it kind of goes, and there's an opening, right? There's a glowing opening, and the players are like, "Oh, do we go into the scary tree vagina? Is this normal? Is that a sentence anybody's ever spoken before in the history of the human language?" The show like, "Okay, let's rock scissors paper to see who goes into the tree vagina first, and what kind of jokes are people going to make about that? All right, are you going to be the first one in? I'm going to nickname you Dildo, right? I wouldn't have said any of that if I were streaming, by the way. That's what Matt thinks in his head. He doesn't say things like that out loud. However, and then once you're in there, I'm imagining it's a pool. It's a pool that is, and around the edge of the pool are guards, dwarven guards. There's a shadow elf that's leading this, and it's a sacrifice, and they're going to sacrifice all these people. Why? I don't know, man. I'll tell you when we get to the end of the adventure. The dog runs into the tree. That's a good idea, RJ3. That's me. When you are creating something, doesn't matter what it is, do not be afraid to do it out of order. There's almost certainly no other way to do it, right? So we're talking about the tree and what the tree does. So let's skip down to the bottom of the outline and create a new section called the tree. And now we have a bucket we can put all our notes in as we're thinking of them, even though we have not got to the part of the adventure yet where they're going to fight the tree. It's evil. You fight it. It dies. You enter Equinox. It's not obvious. Well, hang on. Yeah. Hang on a minute. Shut up. Once the tree is dead, the portal just opens. It won't last forever. The dog just runs in. What does that remind me of? What is the idea of the missing people and the dog just goes for it? And the heroes are like, oh shit, I guess we got to go where the dog is going. What does that remind you of? What's that? What did I steal that from? Apart from RJ3, that's me thinking of it. This is even more obscure, but I believe in my people. What is that a ripoff of? Chat doesn't know. This is so obscure. I actually don't think it's obscure. It's just one of those things where you got to be in the right headspace. So how many of you have seen a movie called Poltergeist? One of my all-time favorite movies. Fucking brilliant. So, you have to be a certain... Poltergeist is a movie from like 1981, 1983, somewhere around there. 81, I think. Really, really fucking good movie. It is a ripoff of a Twilight Zone episode. And the Twilight Zone episode... Yeah, I thought for a second it might be The Outer Limits, but no, it's definitely the Twilight Zone. In the Twilight Zone, a girl goes missing into another dimension. Then it's really, really weird, super interesting. And one of the way, instead of there being, this whole big thing where the dad or the mom goes into the portal to get the girl, the dog just goes in and disappears, and they can hear the dog barking in the house, even though the dog's gone. The dog finds the portal that the kid just fell into, right? So, yeah. Just in case the players don't fuck. It's because I'm not in my writing position. Just in case the players don't understand that what they're looking at is a portal that can be entered. So this is good design because we didn't invent the dog in order to do this, but no one who plays this adventure is going to think that we just had this dog sitting around. They're going to assume that the reason they met the dog in the first place was so that this could happen, right? Isn't that interesting? But that's not how plotting works. We had the idea for the dog just because we wanted this moment where we're foreshadowing what's going to happen, right? And that before they get to the city, they get all of these like echoes of what's going on. They find the shadows, they fight the thorn dragon. The thorn dragon encounter, by the way, is just something that happens because they're looking at these frozen people, and then they see the dog, and it's just ways to ratchet up the tension and get the players to go, what the hell's going on? And then later on, when we were like, well, how are they going to know that they can go in here? Somebody in chat, RJ threw that to me, is like, the dog could jump in. I'm like, there you go. There you go. But if you play this adventure, by the time you get to this point, you're going to go, oh, that's why this dog exists, right? But you who were in chat will be like, nope, the dog, we already had a dog. We already had a dog on the menu, so to speak, when we got to this point. So yeah, the portal just opens, won't last forever. The dog just runs in. The portal leads to Equinox. Equinox. So anyway, I feel like we're getting close to the end of the stream because we're getting close to the end of the rough outlining phase. So let's see, where were we? So there's an encounter here. In fact, let's make an encounter here. Shadow encounter. Some shadows. Done. Oh, excuse me. Hang on a minute. Okay. So this is where the shadow encounter will live once we build it. By hook or by crook, the dog is named Crook. The players figure out that it was eating the cherries that turn people into shadows. The local forest, it's not a woad, but there's something weird and funky going on in it. The PCs can sense this is a liminal place. In other words, the tree and the sacrifice what is the purpose of the ritual? Let's get down to the ritual. Love a good ritual in an evil adventure. Little Girl Lost. That is the name of thank you, Skullmaris. You posted that when I just happened to look in chat. Little Girl Lost is the name of the Twilight Zone episode that Poltergeist is based on. Yeah. Is that Richard Matheson? I wonder. Like that dude wrote a lot of. There's a great quote from Francis Ford Coppola where he said that he thinks that the short story is the perfect medium for adaptation into film. And he goes, a short story is about as long as a movie, right? And Twilight Zone episodes are sci-fi short stories. What is the ritual about? A shadow elf, probably as part of the events in Crack the Sun, is trying to convert this forest into a woad. Very popular thing for the elves to do. The ritual will feed the villagers' souls into the bleeding tree, making it immortal, permanent. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I can link this up later. The idea that there's something about feeding the tree the souls of these people, or something about, yeah. No, I think there's something about the blood of the innocent people doing something to the forest. I gotta figure that out. I'll figure it out later. one of the reasons I will pursue an idea and then stop suddenly is because I'm sort of always evaluating the bang for buck of my thinking, right? And be like, okay, I got a cool idea. It should be something like this. Exactly what? Exactly how does that work? And I go, after a minute or two, I'm like, you know what? It's not coming to me. There's not an obvious answer. So I'm just going to put this down and work on other stuff. Because again, you work on other stuff and all of a sudden you go, oh, hang on a minute. It could be this, right? So it may yet be that there's nothing for it but to bash my head against the wall and come up with a cool answer. But I do like the idea that the players can sort of, it would be nice if the players could just tell by looking what's going on. I sort of feel like do the victims become the black arrows? If you watch Dusk, you know what I'm talking about. What if this is where the black arrows come from? Every innocent villager turns into a black arrow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Because if you get shot with the black arrows, they send you to Equinox. Yeah, I like that. So no one playing this adventure, well, it's not necessarily true. You know, Anna, Tom, Dale, Justice, OD, all of them are going to play this adventure sooner or later. And so at least there's at least 5 players out in the world who are going to go, oh, is that where the black arrows come from? Fuck off. You're like, yep. Yep. So I like that. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. And I like it. And also there's a sort of mythic element to the fact that a normal person, get hit with one of these arrows. What is it that pulls me into this other world? It's the soul of a villager from my world who is now trapped in Equinox. So it's almost like it's their soul screaming out, that pulls me into this other world because that's where they are now. Anyway, it semiotically it works on me. Whether it's literal, whether it makes literal sense, I'm not too worried about that. That's close enough. There we go. We're making progress, folks. It's funny because we started off, let's recap. And as I was recapping, I was trying to solve problems. And that was kind of, that was going to take a lot of time to do it. I'm like, well, let's just keep reading and see where we get. And there was a period in the middle of the stream where it was kind of just Matt going in circles and talking and not getting a lot done. But now I feel like we're actually getting to the point where we have something approaching a real structure. It's not an outline yet, but a real kind of structure. And then it'll turn into an outline probably in the next stream. Right. So once the heroes are well and truly in the forest, they meet the fairies. These are the guys that live here. They are well and truly insane. Insane is better than mad. And this is movie insanity, not real life mental illness. Huge, important fucking difference, right? When you go watch Arsenic and Olace, that dude who thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt, that's the way people were crazy in movies. Which is fine. That's fine. We can do that. There's a certain kind of insanity that is fictional insanity that doesn't happen in the real world, because real world insanity is gross and painful and destroys families. And insanity is not even a real term we use anymore. Mental illness. So this is movie insanity, not real life mental illness. It's not immediately obvious that they're insane, but as the heroes talk to them and engage with them, it becomes more and more obvious. Is there a fight? Matt wonders, is there a fight? Why are we doing this if there's not a fight? They want to serve the heroes, give them hospitality in lieu of serving them for. Yep, I know all about these guys. They're not in a position to learn new things or remember what has happened or who they've met. This is a threat. Oh, so hey, have you seen these innocent villagers? And the fairies say, yes, follow us. This way. But the fairies lead them to a clearing with mushrooms and what's the word I'm looking for? It's like there's a table, there's like a dinner and a a table and dinner service and fine food. You rest here a while. So they're like, yeah, don't worry, we'll take you on, but it's a long way and you're hungry and tired. Just sit here and rest a while, and here is some fine food, right? And this is classic medieval fairyland tales. It's not when you're in fairyland, when you're in what does Robin tell the Wart and Kay not to do when they go in, if they end up in Morgan Le Fay's castle, and they're like, don't eat anything, right? Same thing. So, and then they meet a sane fairy. My friend Jim played one of these. It was really cool. And they're like, this character who's like, hello, hi, they'll be able to tell just by talking to this person that this person's not crazy. And be like, oh yeah, they all went, I am just like them. The only problem is they all went mad a long time ago. They're just, don't pay attention to them. They're just annoying. And he's kind of like, is resentful and hateful of them and kicks them and says, get out of here. This NPC can and will help and guide the players, often providing running commentary about what the fuck is happening. But once in Equinox, they automatically obey any shadow elves. They cannot help it. They become an enemy. I like that. Good. The Battle of the Bleeding Tree. Yes, eventually players make it to the heart of the forest and discover the Bleeding Tree. The alien cherries are the fruit of this tree. There are some shadow elves here, or their proxies, and the tree itself is a portal in Equinox. Okay, so old Matt knew that. So this is a climactic battle, but it's not the climactic battle. The Shadow Elf. If this were Twitch, people watching the VOD, this part would be muted because Twitch can detect that this is Betty Davis eyes. It cannot detect that it's a cover, however. But here on YouTube, all that happens is I get dozens of copyright strikes. Well, I don't get copyright strikes per se. I just get notifications that other companies, a bunch of lawyers in a building I've never heard of are making money off my video because the lawyers work for an investment fund that bought the rights to that own the catalog or whatever. And it's ridiculous and tedious, but as long as it doesn't mute the video, I don't care. The Shadow Elf, who's behind all this, recruited a bunch of shadow dwarves, which I may come up with a better name for. If they're shadow elves, then they shouldn't be shadow elves. They shouldn't be shadow dwarves. They should be like umbral dwarves or gray dwarves. That's fine. I'm not found that. They're not dwargar. Dwargar is not a term unique to D&D. Something more like the Dvergatal is the tale of the dwarves. So I might go do some Old Norse scrubbing around and try to find a word for, maybe talk to Jackson Crawford for what would the Old Norse have called a dark dwarf, but I can figure that out on my own. So it's the dwarves. So the dwarves are the bad guys. Is the battle... I think the battle against the tree, it's just the tree. The tree's a solo. Yeah. So, the tree. The battle against the bleeding tree, it's just the heroes versus the tree. Actually, they've had... I'm just thinking they fought a thorn dragon. That was a solo. Is it kind of abusive to throw multiple solos at them in the same adventure? Probably not. It's probably fine. They fought some shadows, and those shadows can be in different... That can be a whole encounter where they're not just fighting minions who are shaves. There's a variety of undead in there. They're all just incorporeal. That's fine. But I don't want to give away the fact that there's a bunch of dwarves here yet. And then the final battle. Oh, these are all notes. These are all notes. I've already incorporated these, so I can delete that. And now I have another header here. I can delete this header. This is nice. Things are starting to collapse in on themselves as answers, as questions become answers. It's just the heroes versus the tree. Once the tree is dead, the portal just opens. And it won't last forever. The dog just runs in. The portal leads to Equinox. And now they're in. The heroes enter another world. There is a pool here. The villagers. The men-at-arms. No, the men-at-arms got turned into thorns. The villagers. The captive. Villages are here. Let me think for a second. I don't want to look at chat because chat's going to be like, what if it's this? What if it's that? And I don't want to, I want my answers to be in here, not other people's answers, when if at all possible. I forgot to tell Blue Sky that we were doing this. I'm just trying to think of what's the best way for the players to see that the villagers are becoming the black arrows. And I don't know off the top of my head. There might not be an obvious way. That's fine. I'm thinking of like cocoons, and you open the cocoon and the black arrows inside. This is another one of those things I don't have to solve right this second. The captive villages are here. Somehow, the villagers are being turned into the black arrows. Ideally, one villager per arrow, because that's dramatic. There are dark dwarves here, led by a shadow elf. The heroes can defeat the bad guys, rescue the villagers, and exit the way they came. After they do so, the portal from the bleeding tree closes forever. That's the end of the adventure. That's the end of the adventure. How do I feel about that? A lot of open questions left. A lot of work to do, but I feel pretty good about it. I feel like it's going to work, right? Right? You can play any character you want. You know, I'd probably tell the players when they're making characters for this, maybe don't play a Memenek, maybe don't play a Time Raider. This isn't that kind of game, you know. But all the other ancestries are on the table, and it's first level, no expectation that you all know each other. This is going to be how you get to know each other. So the players all show up, they're in town, they see the sign, they see the poster, they're responding to a poster. I can make that poster, I can hand it out. There's a scene with the Baron, they learn about the missing people, they learn about the town that people lost contact with. If they want to, they can investigate here in town, and they will meet people who have gotten shipments of these cherries from Broad, and those people are gone, and they don't necessarily make a connection, but it's an opportunity for the heroes to do a little digging and learn a little something ahead of time. They leave town. On the way there, they find the carter that went missing, which it's not the carter, it's the family. It's a cart and a horse and the family members from the big city who went to go find their family, found Broad empty and were trying to come back, and they got hunted down. And that actually, I want to make sure that if the bad guys are dwarves, that the tracks lead from Broad. Their assailants were short and heavy. So I'm I want to make sure that there's a little bit of it's not even really foreshadowing, although it is technically, but it's when the players search for tracks. What kind of tracks do they find? Well, it's the dark dwarves who are doing all the work. That one shadow elf is the only shadow elf involved in this whole thing, with the possible exception of the shadow elf that's inside the thorn dragon, right? I'm okay with that. So they see these shadows of the family trying to get back to the city after finding out Brode is empty. From there, there's no encounter there, but then they see in a grove of trees in the distance, but on the way, they see glinting light, as though light reflecting off of metal armor and metal weapons. They go investigate. That's where they find the thorn dragon has turned the men at arms, the knight that the Baron sent. And they fight that guy, and they find out maybe that thorn dragon's under the control of the shadow elves. They meet the dog. The dog is an opportunity to be like, you don't have to go all the way back to Brode. You can go straight to the tree if you want to. Depends on if you follow the dog. But they're gonna know. Road goes this way to town. Dog wants to go that way. Which do you do, right? And I don't know what the players are going to do. Some of them I know my players. Some of them are going to be like, follow the plan. Follow the road. We can always follow the dog later. Some of them are going to be like, no, let's follow the dog now. So that's a good debate to have. They get to the town. They get to Brode. It's empty. They're able to piece together what happened, right? Fruit, cherries, missing people, shadows attack. The shades, the undead specters of the people who died in this process. They follow the tracks to the tree. The tree is just a tree. Well, no, I mean, it's all by itself, but it's a big evil demon cherry tree. It attacks the heroes. When it dies, the heroes discover that they can enter in through the portal that the tree represents. They end up in Equinox. There's a bunch of dark dwarves there led by a shadow elf who are turning the villagers into the black arrows. And it's all part and parcel of the plot line of Crack the Sun, where they're trying to terraform Orden and make it suitable for the people of Equinox. And that's it. They save the villagers, get them out. They defeat the bad guys, save the villagers, get them back home, get a reward. When I say it like that, it sounds like an adventure, doesn't it? How many victories? I don't know. This looks like 4 or 5, maybe more. I'll know more when I turn this into a real adventure. Are there Equinox humans? That's a good question. I don't know. Probably not. I think the tree is a portal, Karn. The tree is the portal. And it seems relatively straightforward. It seems like the kind of thing where we could do in 2 sessions. If character creation is part of that, maybe 3 sessions. People who are asking, what if, hey, what about, it sounds like what you're saying is, when I run this, I'm going to do this. Awesome. Knock yourself out. But I'm not going to be at your table. I'm not one of your players. I need to know how I'm going to run it, which is what this is about. So I feel like this is an adventure. Does it seem like an adventure to you folks? The Game Guru, I don't think you understood what I wrote or what I was talking about. I think they have to destroy the tree to go through the portal. If they want to jump through this demon tree's evil glowing vagina in the middle of the battle, nothing's stopping them from doing that. So, and my goal was something short and straightforward. It's got some fun mystery in it. It's got some cool moments in it where weird shit's going on. The players don't know what's happening, but it's not that much. It's not, at the end of the day, this isn't that many things. So I feel like it could really work, actually. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's it, folks. Will I be sharing this file anywhere? Well, I think I just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody is already running this adventure. They didn't wait for me. They just watched the first 2 streams and went, yeah, I can do that. I can finish that. And they're already streaming it. And I found them on YouTube. I'm like, holy shit, this is the adventure. He's like, yep. He goes, I wasn't going to wait. I'm like, all right, knock yourself out, man. There's short and sweet. And there's a bit with a dog. That's a good point. What if the players eat the cherries? Oh, nothing would make me happier. Nothing would make me happier. But if the players eat the cherries, they're gonna want more cherries, and they're gonna want their friends to eat cherries. And when the cherries run out, they're gonna be drawn to the tree. They're gonna feel a compulsion. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Well, so what's next? I think what's next is, I don't know what's next. I think probably the next thing I would do, and I'll probably do this offline. This might be the last of these streams, because I'm going to go do a bunch of work offline. And then what I'll probably do is, after I've said, okay, here's the town, I went and found a Harn map and repurposed it and renamed everything and said, so this is this local town, not Broad, right? Here's the town they're going to start in. Here's the people, because this might end up being a content hub if we play more often than this. Which I'm sure some people are going to want to keep playing when they're done. So the town, I got to figure that out. I got to build all the encounters. I got to connect all the bits. I got to answer. I got to make sure that every encounter in here has a battle mat, right? So that we can, although I plan on running this online, but I also plan on running this in person. So the battle mat has to be something I can just draw with a marker on a battle mat, a blank tactiles at the table. That's not a problem. Yeah. And then, so the next time we stream, which will probably be in a little while, a couple of weeks probably, we'll be going over what I did to this document. Here's everything I did offline to try to turn it into a real adventure. And then I'm going to try to run it. And we're probably going to record that and then edit it and turn it into something you folks can watch. And if that works, I'll probably run it more and probably live for other people that weren't in that group. Do you know how many people I know that would love to play Draw Steel and are just waiting for me to run it for them? A lot. And I want to have an adventure that I can always just have when people are like, oh, Matt, hey, when are we going to play your game, man? I'll be like, I got an adventure right here. Let's do it tonight. And this could be that adventure. We'll see. So Rocket 4.3. I mean, I use all sorts of stuff. I use tactiles. I use ChessX, battle mats. I use all kinds of stuff. What's up, Batman Wallet? What a weird question. Would I ever consider being part of a motion picture? Mr. Matt. What kind of part do you mean? Did I tell you folks about the Sony and the Spider-Man movie? I'm sure I told some of you about this. So after that first Kickstarter, so this would have been sometime in 2018. Sometime in 2018, our lawyer reached out to us and said, hey, I got this email from Sony Pictures asking if I represented you guys because they want, this is the second Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. So there'd already been one Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, which I loved, and everybody I know, we all saw it 3 or 4 times. And they wanted his nerdy friend to have an MCDM sticker on his laptop. And they're like, do you guys mind? Is that okay? We'll send you a thing you can sign to get clearance. And we're like, fuck yeah, that sounds amazing. We would love that. I think the problem was it took too long. They didn't know how to get a hold of us. And so they went to somebody who found our lawyer. And in that time, I think they just pressed on. And we were like, fuck yeah, you want us to send you some stickers? And they're like, no, don't worry. We already had our prop guy replicate it because he found it online. So we got taken care of. We just want to make sure it was okay. I was like, amazing. And the funny thing was, we all forgot about that by the time the movie actually came out. And it was only afterwards, after we had all seen the movie together and we were standing around in the lobby of the movie theater, like, wait a minute. Hey, was the MCM logo in there anywhere? And we're all like, I didn't see it. I would have noticed it if it was in there. And so we all made a point to watch it again, and we did, not together necessarily, and we're like, nah, it didn't make it in there. But wouldn't it have been cool? There was a brief window, folks. There was a brief window where MCDM was going to become an official part of the Marvel Universe. And that would have made me happy. That would have made me really happy if MCDM existed in the same universe as Spider-Man. 15-year-old Matt Colville would have fucking shat himself. That would, but we just thought it was amazing that they asked, and it didn't ruin the fact that we didn't go with it. They didn't go with it. Didn't bother us because we had forgotten all about it by the time the movie came out. Anyway, would I be? Yeah. So that's in that context. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. I would love an MCDM logo to appear in a movie somewhere. I'm going to take a little break, like 15 minutes. And then I think I'm going to jump on Twitch and do a normal Matt Colville stream, which is it's a little bit different here. Rumsar is a codex tester. It's tons of fun. There's the MCDM. Okay, so the VTT, the official Drawsteel VTT, is called the Codex, or the Drawsteel Codex, and it's got its own Discord. The folks at DM Hub are doing it, and they run demos all the time as they test their stuff. And I believe this week, folks, by the way, this week, a huge chunk of MCDM are going up to DM Hub to do like a game jam, because now that people are, including me, I'm not going to be one of them, but I'm in this category of people the design team has already sort of rolled off Drawsteel, the core rules. We still have editing stuff to do. We still have editing work to do, and there's still polish to do. But as far as our task list goes, well, I've got 4 or 5 more Drawsteel tasks. They're all editing and revision, and the manuscript is it's checked out by our editor right now. So I can't do anything while I wait for that to get done. So we start working on other Drawsteel projects. And I forgot why I brought that up. Oh, so as a result, the folks who at DM Hub have been working on the Codex, but they've been principally adding to its feature set with, like, now maps have parallax, which is, it's crazy how they do it. But I'm noticing some wonkiness in the grid there. And Jordy's like, yeah, it's because, I knew it wasn't free. But when you move a map around now, it looks, if there's altitude on the map, when you move the map around, there's this cool parallax effect, which I think is really neat. And they've been doing stuff like that, but they haven't been able to be principally focused on implementing our rule set because the rule set wasn't done. Well, now it is. Now the core rules are done, which means a group of people from MCDM are going to fly up there, and they're going to spend a couple of days just banging on the code and the scripting to get it so that there are code hooks for all the scripting stuff we need, and that we can easily and quickly implement our rules in their game. And that's super, super exciting. I do think there's a good chance that the Codex will launch this year, but it's going to be close to the end of the year. It's going to be a couple of months after people have the books, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. So thanks for watching, folks. I thought that was pretty good. We got here. We can go back to the main view. I feel like I basically know everything I need to know about this adventure to get started on, actually, like, put it into production. You know, I got a couple of encounters I have to design. That's not a problem. You know, I think the biggest encounter, there's an encounter with a thorn dragon. There's an encounter with an evil tree. Those are both solos. That's easy to design. There's an encounter in Broad against a bunch of undead. That'll be a real encounter. That'll be fun. But then the beefy encounter is the one at the end where they're in Equinox and there's a bunch of bad guys. That's the one that's going to require actual, like, real work to design. And that's the only beefy encounter. And then details. What is this barony? What is this local area? And once I get that done, I'll be ready to run it. That's exciting. So thanks for watching, folks. Will Drawsteel do a starter box? That's a good question. That's a question for Matt on Matt's channel, because it has nothing to do with this adventure specifically. So I'm gonna go take a bio break, maybe get some munchies. So let's say 15 minutes. We'll be on twitch.tv/Matthew_Colville, and we'll hang out probably for another 90 minutes. Maybe we'll play some NetHack. I don't know what we're gonna do. Yeah. Until next time, folks. Thanks for watching. The next time you see this adventure, I will probably be jumping on YouTube to show you folks where I landed with all the different encounters in the town and stuff like that. And you folks will see all the detail that I built, and we'll talk about it. And then the next thing you'll see is I'll be running it. Isn't that exciting? I'm super exciting. I think this is, I've been telling friends of mine now for like a year that Drawsteel is just about ready to run. Just about ready. I could run. I probably think I might be able to run for you this month, right? And then something happens. We're like, oh no, we need to take everything apart and put it back together again. And now it's real. This is probably going to be the beginning of a campaign for the players that enjoy the game. This is a demo. It's, hey, you guys want to try Drawsteel? Here, I got an adventure just to show you how it works. Actually, that's a good point. One of the things that's not in here, there's no negotiation in here. There's no montage test. I'll have to think about that. I have to think about, are there places in here where we could put those things? It's not required. Just because a game has these systems in it doesn't mean you are required to use them. But no reason, if there's a good opportunity to, no reason not to. Trying to figure out who you would negotiate? I don't know. I'll think about it. Until next time, folks. Until about 15 minutes, I think. We'll hang on Twitch. Be seeing you. Nerd, 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 nerd.